Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a fun themed video for our reading vlog. I'm going to be reading a variety of holiday books today. In an effort to not make it too repetitive and the books too similar, I have a variety of some Christmas romances. I have a literary fiction, women's fiction type of read. And then finally, I have a little mystery holiday book with a hint of romance in it as well. I actually gave myself a little bit of a head start on today's video, so I am 40% through Holiday Romance by Catherine Walsh. This is my first book by Catherine Walsh, but I have heard amazing things about her from some other booktubers that I watch. Specifically, I've heard that this woman knows how to write a good holiday book, so I was initially intrigued, and I've had this book saved from Kindle Unlimited for quite a while now. And as I mentioned, already being 40% of the way through, I am happy to say that I am really enjoying this book so far. For a brief synopsis, we are following Molly and Andrew, who are currently living in Chicago. However, they both are from Dublin, Ireland. So every year, whenever they go home for Christmas, they end up always being on the same flight and oftentimes sitting next to each other. And over the course of 10 years, they've grown a friendship and actually really look forward to this yearly flight because it gives them 7 hours of uninterrupted catching up and friend time. But this year, it is the cursed year of trying to get home. There's a huge storm over the Atlantic, so all of the flights are grounded, and it's kind of just following them through the series of unfortunate events. They're having to take planes, trains, and automobiles trying to get to their location. One flight has turned into 3 flights, has turned into 3 days trying to get home, and it's just been really funny so far. I feel like the jokes and the banter that are made are actually really funny. I've highlighted multiple funny moments where I'm laughing out loud. I really like how the story's laid out because it's kind of a dual timeline. Not only are we working through this year of them running into so many obstacles trying to get home, but we also get the past timeline and a glimpse into their previous flights and how their friendship has grown over time. We can see from their history that it's always been a very platonic relationship, but this year, after a little mishap with some mistletoe, things feel a little bit different. I'm really excited to see where the story goes. So far, it's been keeping me very entertained. So with all of that being said, I think it's time that we hop on in, and I will check back in whenever I'm finished with Holiday Romance. Update time. I literally just finished Holiday Romance, so you're getting my very raw and immediate reactions on this one. This was so cute. This would make such a good movie. I feel like Catherine Walsh did such a good job with the pacing of this book. We got enough hints of the past while still maintaining a pretty swift progression of the plot through present timeline. Even though feelings came very fast for this couple, because of the 10-year history that they have, it didn't really feel out of place. I really liked the addition of the families to the story. Each set of families had a lot of different personalities and quirks that were added to the story, which I very much enjoyed. And there's a book too in the series following Andrew's little brother, Christian, and he seems like the broody type, so I would definitely read his book. I believe it's called Snowed In. But for my final rating for Holiday Romance, I think I'm gonna give this a 4 stars. It was really cute. Obviously, it's a little bit cheesy. That's kind of the purpose of the story, but I feel like there was enough emotional depth and have this be a believable love story. And I am someone that I have watched a lot of Hallmark Christmas films, and I actually feel like this isn't a story that I've seen done before, so I appreciate the originality of it. 4 stars to Catherine Walsh. I don't know if I'll be picking up book 2 this December time, but I will definitely be reading more from her, and I guess from here it will be time to start our next book. I believe the next book I'm going to start is the Book Club Hotel, but I'm not going to get into the plot now because I plan on picking that up in a couple days. So I will see you guys in the next clip. Time for our next holiday book. While I did manage to get this one through KU, I do also have it as an audiobook from my library. So I am going to be listening to the Book Club Hotel by Sarah Morgan. I felt like this would be a nice switch up from mostly Christmas romances because this is more about female friendship. We follow 3 friends who have a book club and they've gone to this hotel during the holiday season, and somehow the owner of the hotel that they're at gets intertwined and learns more about their stories, and we kind of just like explore female friendships, healing, and connecting over the love of books. And because I'm going to be listening to this as an audiobook, I have been very, very patient, but it's finally time to break out my little Christmas puzzle. Hunter got this for me back in October during my birthday book haul, and I am very excited. Like, does this not look like the most festive and cute puzzle you've ever seen? So with all that being said, I think it's time to hop on in, and I will most likely be seeing you guys for a little midway check-in. Doing a little 56% of the way check-in, and I'm happy to say that this book is flying by so far. We've fully gotten introduced to and are comfortable with who each of our characters are. Out of the 3 friends who are part of the book club and have been friends for multiple decades at this point, we have one friend who's like hyper independent, has never once thought of like starting a family or slowing down. We have the antithesis of her. One of the friends is a stay-at-home mom where her whole life is surrounding her kids and her husband. She's kind of having a midlife crisis because her kids are growing up and leaving the nest. And then we have another friend who's kind of at a difficult point in her life. Either her long-term boyfriend or her husband ended up leaving her, and then she also just lost her job. So each of these women are kind of dealing with a crisis of their own. And then the hotel owner, I think has the saddest story of them all. She's 28 years old and unexpectedly lost her husband 2 years ago and is stuck managing this inn by herself and also raising their 5-year-old daughter by herself. And we learned that one of the book club members kind of has an ulterior motive for why they want this book club to be held at this hotel in particular. We have since gotten that reveal at 50%. I will say that was very obvious, the ulterior motive and how that would have connected to the hotel owner, but we will forgive it. I don't think this book is trying to be a mystery novel. At the speed I'm listening at, I only have like just over 2 hours left, so this has been very enjoyable thus far just to have on in the background, and it's kind of easy listening. I will say I don't know if it overly feels super Christmassy, other than the fact that it's taking place in early December and the inn is very much giving like that Hallmark quintessential cozy inn vibe. And at this point, I don't think it's been overly impactful either. It's easy, it's enjoyable, but I don't know if it's something that's really going to stick with me. That is my quick midway update for now. Gonna hop back in, let's see how much of this puzzle I can do in the remaining time, and then we'll wrap up with my final thoughts. Final check-in for the book club hotel. I do love that I managed to read this book all in one day. I said this multiple times in the last check-in, but just affirming that this is a very quick and easy read to get through. I feel like the audio narration is also very good, so it was an enjoyable audiobook to listen to. Regarding the plot, I would say the cheese factor on this is so unbelievably high. This is extremely corny and predictable. It is sweet, but in no way did this change my life or even really make an impact on me. I think I'm just going to rate this at 3 stars because it was sweet and enjoyable. It's just not something that I'm ever going to think about again. As predicted, we kind of just see how these women are going to move forward with the different problems that they were all facing. Everything got tied up in a very pretty bow very easily and quickly because the course of this book only takes place over a week, and honestly, all of their problems come out and are resolved within like 3 or 4 days. So things move very quickly quick in this plot. I do think it's a positive that we're following multiple characters, because if we were just following one character, I think this would be incredibly boring. Overall, I'm not mad I read it, but I wouldn't say this is something I would like rush out to go purchase. I think it's great through KU or getting through your library, but beyond that, I don't think this is a must read for this Christmas time. I'm really excited for the next book that we're reading. I have a lot of high hopes because I love Miss Allie Carter, but we'll talk about that book a little bit more tomorrow. So for now, this is where I will leave you for the evening because I'm a very tired girl. I didn't manage to finish my puzzle, but I feel like I made some good progress. I'll give you guys a quick update. This is where we got to. I think I'm definitely over halfway, but still quite a bit of work to do. So maybe we shall continue this with another book. We shall see. Hello friends. It is a very dark and gray morning this morning, so I apologize if the lighting looks crazy here, but I really need to do an update on The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. I'm loving this book. I am a huge Allie Carter stan. I literally have loved her forever as I started reading her as a child, but also recently I've been reading her adult books as well, and I am so impressed. The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year follows two mystery authors. Our female main character Maggie writes more cozy mysteries, while our male main character Wyatt writes more thrillers. And for some reason or another, they don't really get along. We haven't really learned much as to why just quite yet, but they both get invited to a mystery location. And it kind of turns into a Knives Out meets Christmas rom-com because people start to go missing, they start finding clues, and just like a whole bunch of chaos ensues where you don't know who did it. And the thing I'm most impressed about with this book, because I think Allie Carter always wins with her plots. Her plots are so fun and thrilling, but not in a scary way. She does the perfect type of mystery for my brain where it's not scary, but it just captivates you and keeps you engaged. So because of that, the plot is amazing in this book, but what's taking it to the next level is the banter. I think Allie Carter got a new editor because the actual like prose and banter, there are so many funny moments in this book where I'm just like highlighting because it's just witty. I will say it again, I'm just so impressed with what she's doing with this one. Obviously, I do have the physical, but my friend just read this book and she listened to it as an audiobook and she said that the audiobook was amazing. So I did like the first 25% as an audiobook, and I can concur. The narrator is 10 out of 10. However, since there's been so many quotes that I want to highlight, I have gone to reading this physically and I am at about 38%, but that is with me slowing myself down and stopping myself because I didn't want to get too far before talking to you guys. But I think so far this is my favorite of the video. I am loving this, and while this is a holiday rom-com, I think this book holds up as just a standard book that you should read. I do think in the wintertime it would be preferred to read, but I think this is going to be our winner of the video. So with that update, I'm going to continue on reading, and I guess we'll see what I end up rating this. I don't know if it's a 5-star. I am just loving it so thoroughly that maybe it could be, but regardless, this is going to be a very high rating, and I'll be excited to debrief with y'all later. Very exciting news. I have finished our third book of the video. I have finished The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. This book was so fun. I sat on my rating for a little bit, but I'll be honest, I came to my conclusion pretty quick. I definitely liked this book more than Holiday Romance, but I also knew that this book isn't a 5 stars. But this is going to be most likely our highest rated book of the video. This is going to be a 4.5 stars. I enjoyed this so thoroughly. It was the perfect mix of mystery and romance, and I wouldn't be surprised if I read this again in the future. Why I didn't give this a 5 stars is the first 100 pages were super strong. I was so impressed with the writing, really impressed with her editors or whatever she did differently with this book, because I can see a clear improvement from previous books to this. However, I will say I figured out who the bad guy was because I feel like there was one key fact that really pointed to someone in particular. And because of that, I don't think it was too hard to figure out who the bad guy was. And additionally, I think whenever we got to the second half, the insta-love that came about in this book happened really, really quickly, because really we only see these two grow their relationship over the course of 3 days. So I just felt like that was a little bit too quick for me. I wish that maybe we had a little bit more time, a little bit more of a baseline for their relationship. But I don't want you to hear those things and think that I'm not recommending you pick this up, because I absolutely loved this book. It was so fun. I think a nice switch up from holiday romances, and I just love the plots that Ally Carter is able to create. So with all of that great news regarding our previous book, that does lead us to our last book of the video. And I'll be honest, I left the book that I'm most concerned about for last. That's gonna be Wreck the Halls by Tessa Bailey. I bought this book last Christmas and I tried to pick this up then. I only got 13% of the way through because I really wasn't enjoying my time too much. And I am worried this has a high likelihood of being a DNF for me. Since I am a little bit worried about this one, I did get it as an audiobook, and I'm going to listen to the first part of it while I try to finish my Christmas puzzle, because that is still sitting there staring at me to complete. And if I end up not loving it by the time the puzzle's done, I'll just end up moving on without finishing this one. I might need to reintroduce myself to this plot because there is probably quite a bit of it that I don't remember. From what I can remember, there's like this band that broke up and the two members each have a child, and these two end up teaming together to like try and get the band back together, and then the two children like start to develop a romance. The two things that I remember not liking about this book is the first chapter made me cringe so hard. We're in the perspective of our female main character, and she's a teenager and she's like hopelessly in love with the male main character, to the point where like I was physically uncomfortable reading it, and it was just so cringeworthy. And two, our male main character's name is Beat. Unfortunately, you did hear me correctly. B-E-A-T, Beat and Melody, because their parents were in a music group together. And that does just make me concerned for what else is this book going to make me cringe about. And keep in mind, that stuff happened within the first 13% of the book. So I'm just nervous to see where the story's gonna go, but I guess we'll see how far I get through, and hopefully, I mean, it gets better from there. I don't want to like have to end this video on a bad note, but I also want to be realistic with you guys and not recommend bad books for you to read. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead, hop on in, and it's time for me to finish this dang puzzle. I am sad to say this is going to be the last clip because I made the decision to DNF Wreck the Halls. I could tell my enjoyment of this was around a 2-star. However, once we got to the first intimate scene, it just really didn't do it for me. Our male main character has an interesting relationship with intimacy, which is heavily hinted at as we work through the book, and how that played out in the first intimate scene. I could tell I wasn't going to be able to get behind it. So we DNF'd this at about 45%. I do feel like I was able to remember the plot fairly well. These two adult children, Melody and Beat, team up to try and get their mother's band back together in time for a Christmas concert, and each of them would receive $1 million if the band does get back together. And each of them have their own reasons for why they would want this money and some more financial security. I have to say that Beat's reason and that whole backstory, I just really wasn't enjoying at all. And I think the worst part of this book is how these two met once whenever they were teenagers. They met for like a 3 or 4 minute interaction, and now it's like 15 years later, and these two always think about that interaction and could they have been the one, could they have been best friends if their mother's bands didn't break up. And such an integral part of the plot is how these two have like such a deep rooted instant connection. And it's like, you guys have no history together. There's no basis for this relationship. So it just felt really, really forced and completely unbelievable. So for all of those reasons, I had to DNF. I had worried this would happen. Unfortunately, it did. I got a lot farther this time than I did the first time. I really liked Tessa Bailey whenever I first got back into reading. I read It Happened One Summer and did enjoy that. Hook, Line, and Sinker I also did enjoy, but not as much. After reading Wreck the Halls, I'm hesitant to hop into more by Tessa Bailey because her newer releases, the premises of them, I just don't think are my vibe. I feel like she leans a little bit too heavy on the smut, because while I do enjoy that in a book, I do have to have a believable relationship to root for to then see the smut play out. So I don't know if Tessa Bailey is my gal. I don't feel like there's enough emotional depth in her books, so that is keeping me away from exploring more by her. But overall, even though this book was a DNF, I think we still had a very successful video. Throwing it way back, Holiday Romance by Catherine Walsh gave a 4 stars. Really did enjoy that one. Next we had The Book Club Hotel, which was a 3 stars. Wholesome, sweet, enjoyable, just not something that's gonna really stick with me. And then The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Allie Carter, 4.5 stars. If you were to only read one book out of all of these, I would definitely recommend The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. It was super fun. A good mix of holiday, mystery, and romance. So with all of that being said, this is where I will love you and leave you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye guys.